Hello everyone and welcome to another video. So season 17 being recently rumoured to be the next box set in the overall collection series of Blu-rays, I thought to talk about what sets I would like to see be done next. But just a quick little disclaimer before we get into it, I myself don't actually collect the collection Blu-rays, as I'm just not really all that interested in getting any. Don't get me wrong, I think that it's great that we have them and I do honestly enjoy talking about them with other fans and speculating as to what will come out next. I also really love the cover art that is done for each release by Lee Binding, but I already have all the stories on DVD and I don't want to be paying loads of money on getting them all over again, but with just some more special features effectively. Plus, I'm not all that interested in Blu-rays as a whole, as I just tend to prefer DVDs, because I'm basically just a sad old fart like that at heart. But with all that out of the way with, let's now move on to my top picks for what seasons I'd like to see be released next, starting with my honourable mention. Honourable mention, Season 1. Season 1 was of course the season that started it all, so being the show's very first season, I don't think it should come as much as a surprise that I've included it in this video. But the reason why it's only an honourable mention is simply because I don't think it's very likely that it will be released anytime soon. Like all the seasons from the 60s, Season 1 has missing episodes of course, 9 in total. 2 of these have already been animated back in 2013 for the Reign of Terrors released during that year. They were animated by Planet 55, later Big Finish Creative, alongside Big Finish Productions. But the remaining 7 make up the entirety of the season's 4th story, Marco Polo, and given just how difficult it would be to animate Marco Polo due to the amount of episodes as well as sets and characters, in addition to its racist themes, I don't really think it's that likely to be animated anytime soon. So therefore Season 1 will probably not be released for quite a long while yet. The earliest I could see it potentially being released is in time for the 60th anniversary, but even that isn't particularly very likely. So that's what stops the season from making it onto the actual list. But I would love it if Season 1 was to be released one day, not just because of its historical significance, but also because of just how great of a season I think it is. Anyway, let's now move on to the actual list, with 5th place. 5. Season 6. Another season from the 1960s, Season 6 is one of my favourite seasons of all time. I love and enjoy pretty much every story in this season. Yes, even the Crotons, fight me. The Dominators, whilst by no means the greatest story ever, is still an interesting and watchable story. The Mind Robber and the Invasion are both worthy of the amount of praise and attention they get from fans, with my only complaint being that maybe the Invasion could have been a little bit shorter. The Crotons is a fun little story and I honestly don't think it's quite as bad as people may think, although it is again by no means the greatest story ever and nowhere even close to being Robert Holmes' best story. The Seas of Death is another that deserves the amount of high praise it gets, and The Space Pirates is a massively underrated gem in my honest opinion, and no, I'm really not joking when I say that. The War Games, meanwhile, is without a doubt one of my favourite stories of all time, and might even be my favourite last story for any Doctor. Its length of 10 episodes doesn't actually drag it down or make it a huge effort to try and get through. It's just a really fun, action-packed, emotional journey, and I always tear up a little when the second Doctor says goodbye to Jamie and Zoe, before then regenerating. But like with Season 1, Season 6 also has missing episodes, although not as much, with only 7 out of the overall 44 for the entire season being missing. 2 of these 7 have again been animated already for the Invasion's release back in 2006, and the remaining 5, which make up most of the Space Pirates, might be slightly easier to animate than something like Marco Polo. This is because it would be less episodes to animate, as well as potentially less sets and characters if I remember correctly. But again, like with Season 1, I don't think it's very likely that Season 6 will be released as part of the collection anytime soon. In general, I wouldn't be too surprised if we didn't get any 60 seasons for a little while yet, so that the animations can be produced gradually and eventually fill in all the gaps first. But who knows, maybe we shall see some sooner than we might think. Anything is possible after all. Anyway, let's now move on to 4th place. 4. Season 20. The first season to not come from the 1960s on this list, Season 20 was of course a season made during the show's 20th year back in 1983, with the season climaxing with the 20th anniversary special, The Five Doctors. But beyond the aforementioned 5 Doctors, there isn't that many stories that truly stand out as all-time classics to me. Arc of Infinity is reasonably good, and Snake Dance is the same, although clearly not as good as Kinder. Mordrin Undead is decent enough and is worth watching purely for the scenes featuring the Fifth Doctor and the Brigadier, as well as being Turlough's first story, of course. Terminus and Enlightenment both explore some really interesting ideas and themes, but are just a little bland and bog standard in some ways, in my own personal opinion. The King's Demons is an interesting enough oddity of a story, but is very restrained and limited in telling that much of an actual story, due to its very short length of just two 25-minute length episodes. So if they were to release season 20, I personally would find it to be a bit of a strange choice. It's a definite dip in quality compared to its predecessor season 19, and not even close to being anywhere near as good as its successor season 21, which we'll get back to in a moment or two. But since it was released during the show's 20th year, I could somewhat understand why they may want to go with season 20, if it's just because of that reason alone. Anyway, we now come to the final three, starting with third place. 3. Season 7. The first 70s season on this list, Season 7 is a season that saw a lot of historic and memorable changes. The Doctor was exiled to Earth and forced to regenerate, whilst the show moved into colour for the very first time and saw the beginning of the Earthbound unit era. Things start off with a bang with Spearhead from space, before then dipping slightly, but only a tiny bit, with Doctor and the Silurians and the Ambassadors of Death, before finishing off with another of my all-time favourite Doctor Who stories, and maybe even my favourite ever, Inferno. I don't really have a lot of negatives to say about this season, beyond the fact that I think Silurians and Ambassadors are just a little too long for their own good, really. But even then, there's still more than enough to keep me interested with these two stories. The Third Doctor, Liz and the Brigadier are such an iconic and great trio, and I love their chemistry and dynamics together, especially in Spearhead and Inferno. I think it would be great if Season 7 was released soon. The only reason why it isn't any higher is simply because I feel like there's two other seasons that should be released just a little bit more. Anyway, we now come to second place. 2. Season 21. I said earlier that we'd come back to Season 21, and sure enough, we have. Season 21 is a much better season quality-wise than its predecessor, I think. Things start off a little shaky with Warriors of the Deep, before then improving with The Awakening and Frontios. Resurrection of the Daleks then completely blows it out of the park, and Planet of Fire is fine enough. The Caves of Androzani is another story that blows it out of the park, and is just instant top tier Who right from the word go. We then finish off with the Twin Dilemma, which I feel was a little too heavily bashed about by fans. I don't really think it's the worst story ever made, although I do agree that it is far from perfect, and there are many different problems with it, not least the Sixth Doctor's unhinged and abusive behaviour. Overall, I'd say that Season 21 is a season that 100% deserves to be released very soon. I'd really like to see it be released, although I wonder what they'd have to do when it came to which Doctor to have on the front cover. Maybe they'd end up splitting pictures of the two down the middle and putting them together, or have a regeneration effect or something. Either way, I'd still love to see Season 21 be released as part of the collection range, and hopefully it will be very soon. Anyway, we now come to my number one top pick, and that is 1. Season 25. Season 25 was of course released during the show's 25th year, with one of the season's stories, Silver Nemesis, acting as essentially the show's 25th anniversary special. With seasons 24 and 26 having already been released, it would definitely make an awful lot of sense if season 25 was among the next seasons to be released, as we would then have the whole 7th Doctor era on Blu-ray. Season 25 overall improves a lot from season 24, with the 7th Doctor's darker and more Machiavellian persona beginning to appear during the course of it. Remembrance of the Daleks kicks the season off in spectacular fashion, with a fast-paced, action-packed story full of great and exciting moments. The Happiness Patrol then famously uses its political commentary to great effect, and the Candyman is actually a pretty good monster, if a little overshadowed by the story's main villain, Helen A. And he doesn't really do all that much when you think about it. He basically just stays in his kitchen concocting deadly sweets and shouting Gilbert at the top of his lungs, what seems like every 5 seconds. Silver Nemesis then continues the action-packed excitement that Remembrance started, although arguably to a much less spectacular standard, and then The Greatest Show in the Galaxy finishes things off with a truly sinister story full of great characters and scenes. So overall, season 25 is a pretty top quality season for the most part. It's a season that I think should be released next to most, and I really am looking forward to when it is eventually released, whenever that may be. Anyway, so there we have it. Those are my top picks for what seasons I like to see being released in the collection range next. I hope you all enjoyed finding out what my top picks are, but what are yours? Please feel free to tell me them in the comment section below. But anyway, so thanks for watching, hope you liked it. Please don't forget to click that subscribe button below, as well as press the bell icon at the side so you'll be notified of when all my new videos come out. This channel currently has 380 subscribers as of the time of writing and recording this video. But if we're able to get to 500 by the end of this year, then I will rank every single TV companion, from 1963 to the present. Also please rate and comment below what you would like to see being released as part of the collection range, as well as whether you agreed with my picks or not. And if you have any questions for my upcoming Q&A, then please comment them below. The deadline for all questions is the 17th of September at 11:59 PM UK time. So, until next time, bye bye!